What if a country few expected suddenly rose from the sidelines of world affairs to center stage? What if the Philippines, famous for its paradise islands, warm hospitality, and unmatched love for music, became more powerful than Japan, more respected than Germany, and stood toe-to-toe with the United States and China? It sounds like a dream, doesn't it? But what if it's not as far-fetched as it seems? Imagine waking up to global headlines saying the Philippines now leads in global trade, is a powerhouse in tech innovation, and has the most advanced navy in Southeast Asia. Picture this: the Philippine peso becomes the strongest currency in Asia, or the country launches its first space station ahead of schedule. Unbelievable? Maybe, but not impossible. Let's pause and look at what's already here. Over 110 million people, making it the 13th most populous nation on Earth. A youthful population, average age just 25. That means innovation, boldness, untapped genius. Add to that a location so strategically placed it sits at the crossroads of East and West, bridging two of the busiest oceans in the world. So why hasn't the Philippines risen to superpower status yet? Colonial chains, corruption, misguided leadership, outside interference. These have stunted what could have been. But what if something changed? What if a new wave of leaders stood up and said, no more? Imagine a generation that cleanses the system, embraces technology, rebuilds trust, and reclaims sovereignty. That shift would send shockwaves across continents. The first signs? Economic transformation. No longer just the call center capital. This time, it's Filipinos leading the charge in AI, robotics, clean energy, and even automotive innovation. Filipino-built drones power global industries. Local engineers, once forced to work abroad, stay home because now the opportunities are here, and global investors are lining up. Then comes the military shift, not for war, but for peace and protection. The Philippines takes command of its waters. Locally built warships sail through the South China Sea. Homegrown fighter jets participate in global defense drills. Filipino-led special forces become known worldwide, not for aggression, but for resolving conflict. Next comes a cultural explosion. Filipino artists top global music charts. Filipino series and films trend on Netflix. The world embraces Tagalog the same way it once embraced Korean. From fashion runways in Paris to red carpets in Hollywood, Filipino creativity becomes impossible to ignore. But perhaps the most profound change is moral. The Philippines steps up as the world's conscience. In climate talks, in humanitarian efforts, in peace building, the world listens. Not because it must, but because it wants to. How does that world get built? It starts with education. Imagine free, quality schooling from elementary to university. Imagine new schools, modern tools, real-world learning. Young minds building apps, launching businesses, curing diseases, not memorizing outdated facts. Tech hubs rise in Davao, Cebu, Iloilo, not just Manila. Invention replaces imitation. Then comes infrastructure. A program called the Great Philippine Leap ignites. No corruption, no delays. Bullet trains connect Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Bridges and underwater tunnels link islands once isolated. Modern airports position the Philippines as Asia's new aviation hub. Energy independence follows. The country taps into geothermal, wind, and solar on a massive scale. No more begging for oil. The Philippines becomes the leading exporter of clean energy in Southeast Asia. And with energy freedom comes political freedom. No more bending to oil-rich superpowers. The Philippines decides its own destiny. To protect all this, a revitalized military emerges. No more secondhand ships or hand-me-down planes. Local industries design and build cutting-edge defense systems. In cyber warfare, Filipino coders become global leaders, building systems that major alliances like NATO want to adopt. Now the world watches closely. At first, it scoffs, then it's stunned. Trade deals shift. Loans are offered, not requested. Developing countries seek Philippine help in Africa, Latin America, even Eastern Europe. The East is intrigued, the West is awakened. Even in outer space, the Philippines takes off literally. A new agency, PAXA, the Philippine Aerospace Exploration Agency, launches. A homegrown satellite enters orbit. A Filipino rover touches the moon. A spaceport in Palawan makes the country a serious player beyond Earth. But the greatest power the Philippines harnesses isn't technological, it's human. It becomes a nation that leads with soul, not ego. In a fractured world, it becomes a symbol of unity. In a greedy world, it stands for compassion. Filipino healthcare workers abroad are no longer seen as just staff, they're peace ambassadors. Teachers, nurses, caregivers, artists. They carry not just skills but values. Yet, no rises without resistance. Enemies, foreign and domestic, will try to disrupt the progress. Cyber attacks, smear campaigns, political sabotage. But this time, Filipinos won't be deceived. History taught them to well, because this time, power belongs to the people, not to dynasties or oligarchs. And the people will protect it like their future depends on it, because it does. Now pause. Ask yourself, is this just wishful thinking? Or could it be the most underestimated possibility of our time? Remember, every superpower started from somewhere. South Korea was once poorer than the Philippines. Singapore was once a fishing village. Japan was flattened after World War II. They rose through unity, vision, and relentless effort. So why not the Philippines? In fact, it may have something the others didn't. It's diaspora. Over 10 million Filipinos are spread across the globe, experts, creatives, professionals. Now imagine just a fraction of them return, not just with savings, but with world-class skills and global networks. Imagine hospitals run by Filipino doctors trained in London. Startups launched by engineers from Silicon Valley right in Quezon City. Art studios filled with visionaries from LA and Milan. That's not fiction, that's a plan. Then there's the ultimate asset, the Filipino spirit. Joyful in hardship, resilient in disaster, unshaken by storms. What happens when that spirit is paired with global influence? You get a kind of power the world has never seen. A cheerful, soulful force. A kind of superpower that doesn't conquer but elevates. When that moment arrives, the world will have to adapt. The balance of power will shift not just east or west, but to the global south. And at the center of it all, the Philippines. So what if the next superpower doesn't wear a suit and tie or wave from a tank? What if it sings in Tagalog, dances in the rain, and prays before every meal? What if the next global leader isn't feared but loved? A Philippines that doesn't dominate but inspires. That doesn't exploit but empowers. Not a superpower of force but of purpose. And maybe, just maybe, that's the kind of leadership the world has been waiting for. So the next time someone tells you the Philippines can't rise, look them in the eye and ask, what if you're wrong? Because once the Philippines awakens to its own potential, there'll be no going back.